Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here, and I'm back with another video for honeybee stamps. If you have been around the blog lately, you know that all of us have been really loving this pumpkin patch set, and I am no exception. So I had this idea for the last video that I made, and I was bringing it to fruition. So I'm using Fluttering By, I'm using the pumpkin patch, the Buttercup set, what's the other one? Some sentiments. Anywho, I used a lot of stamps, some stencils, to make this one layer card because this was just the idea I had in my head. So anywho, I'm going to be doing a whole lot of stamping. This is masking paper, and I'm going to be stamping, and Simon says Stamp Intense Black ink because it is Copic safe. I just recently reordered my the re-inker for the Gina K amalgam ink, but I used this one before I used the Gina K, and it is still a very good ink to use. So I'm stamping out all of these. Yes, I'm going to cut all of them out. No, I'm not a crazy person. I mean, a little bit crazy, but not like in a bad way. So here I'm just taking my masks and I'm doing my entire layout. So how I want those things positioned, I'm going to fuss around with it a little bit until I can get everything the way that I want it. And then this is pretty much going to be kind of like my blueprint for going forward with all of the stamping that I'm going to do. So once I have everything in place, I'm going to set the stamps on top of the masks so I know exactly where they're going to stamp at, and then pick them up with the Misty Door and then remove the rest of the masks so that way I can stamp this down. I'm not going to put them all back in place every single time to line them up, but I did take a picture of it with my phone so that way I could go back and look at where all of the things were lined up. Ultimately, at the end of the day, do all of the things go exactly back where they were before? No. But does the gist of the layout stay the same? Yes. So I really love this butterfly set, and I didn't really get to use it over the summer. So I really wanted to be able to incorporate it into a card before, we got into snowmen and ornaments and Christmas and all of that stuff. Not that you can't use butterflies any time of the year, because you can. But anyway, so once I stamp those, I put the masks on top of them, and then I'm going to reposition the other items that I need, because all of these things are in the front. So we've talked about one layer cards a lot because, well, I like one layer cards a lot. And you have to stamp what's in front first. So the thing you want to see all of, like I want to see all of the leaf. The leaf is going to go first. And then what I want to see part of will go behind it. So that's the pumpkins. What I want to see even less of will be the flowers, so it will go behind the pumpkins. Not all of them. I layered to make it interesting, but you get the point. And then as I stamp each layer, I'm going to mask it, so that way those things stay safe and whole and complete, and there's no lines in between them. And then I'm just slowly going to build back till I get to the, what is that? The clouds, and that'll be the stencil. So anywho, it is a little bit time consuming, but honestly, I'm a colorist, so it's clearly I don't have any issues with spending lots of time on a card, because coloring takes a long time. Well, depending upon what medium you use, but I prefer Copic, so it does take a long time. Though I am faster with those than colored pencils. Colored pencils just take me 100 years, and I'm sure those of you who use colored pencils as your medium all the time, Copics probably seem like they take a long time. And you're really fast with colored pencils. I'm just not. And I don't love them. I don't love them enough to get fast with them. I know. So now we're moving on to the pumpkins. All of those leaves and the acorns are masked. And then I will stamp each pumpkin, mask it, and then, move on to the next one. So what has been going on? I feel like my life has just been crazy for like the last 2 weeks. It's just been crazy busy. Lots and lots of stuff going on. So I'm trying to think where to even... So let's talk a little bit, I guess, about some doctor's appointments. So I've had a bunch. Peanuts had some as well. So he had a cavity. And they gave him, so basically they gave us 3 options: just Novocaine, no nitrous oxide, or complete anesthetic, so completely knocking him out. And so me and his father were like, we're not for the knocking him out completely. Nathan said he wanted to be awake for the procedure. So we decided that we were going to do his 6-month molars, like to seal his 6-month molars. And then based on how that went, we would decide what we were going to do. So the 6-month molars went really well. They said that they thought the nitrous would be the best option for him. So that is what we ultimately decided to do. I did not realize that they were going to give him the nitrous and then still give him Novocaine. I did not prepare him for that because I didn't realize that's what was going to happen. Because I was like, if you were doing the Novocaine anyway, why does he need the nitrous? But I guess it's because a lot of kids freak out, which I don't really blame him. I don't like the dentist either. But anywho, he did great. He was totally awesome. But I was a nervous wreck because, you know, my baby, you get it. So I was very nervous, but he did wonderful. And then he also had his regular checkup, which all was well. He got his flu shot while he was there, so he's good to go on that front. I honestly still need to get mine. When I was picking up my prescription the other day, they said they had like super cheap flu shots. I should have probably just got it. Back to the card. So here, everything is masked. And so I'm going to put some clouds into the background. If you have not been over to the blog, I would recommend heading over there. There's lots and lots of fall inspiration, but since, like I said in the beginning, all of us have been really loving this pumpkin patch set, there's a lot of variations on it, and they're really, really beautiful. I know Jessica Frost Ballas did a night one, and there was another team member that did a beautiful night one. I decided to make mine day because I wanted that butterfly, right? It was all about the butterfly. So here I'm just using some Salty Ocean Distress ink just to add some blue into the sky. Some of them I'm overlapping. Some of them, I'm flipping them upside down so I could get instead of the flat part of the cloud, I could get the, like the curved fluffy edge. The only thing you want to watch, though, is just the clouds next to it, because if you get real wide with those circles, you can catch the edge of the stencil, or another cloud where you don't mean for it to go. I'm also going to put a little bit of green just at the bottom. There's clearly not a lot of area here to cover because of how close I had to stamp everything. But still, just to get that down. Now, magic time. And I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these masks so you can see this one layer scene that we have built up here, which I really love. When I made my card, when I made the alcohol ink cards, it was before the rainbow one. I was like, I really want to do this whole scene with the little buttercups, because I had that out because I used the big leaf from there in that one. So we're going to talk about coloring pumpkins. That's the whole point of this this video. I mean, we're going to get back to the other stuff too. Let's be honest. It's a long video. But we're going to talk about coloring pumpkins a little bit, because there's a couple of different, basically the technique, the idea of coloring pumpkins always stays the same. We're going to talk about coloring, the color selection for the pumpkins. So for this one here, I like bright colors. This is kind of my go-to for pumpkins. Now you want to put the shading where the ridges are going to be. It's going to naturally be darker as the pumpkin shape turns in. And then you also want to make sure that your strokes are following the shape of the pumpkin, because they are more round. For this pumpkin, and most of my pumpkins, honestly, I leave the highlight in the center. It just gives it a more round appearance by adding shading to the top and the bottom. But the colors that I picked here are hold on, I'll remember, a Y08, a Y38, a YR04, and no, that's not true, a Y38, a YR04, a YR09, and an R29. And you're like, Kelly, that's a red. And you're right. R29 is a red. But because of the colors that I selected to go with it, it's going to be that bright kind of fiery orange color, and that's why I can do it with a red. If you want something more subdued, which is an option that I will show you, you can also choose your darkest color to be a reddish brown, which will not be as bright as the rest of them. But oranges and yellows are a little bit hard for shading, so sometimes you have to go outside of their little color family to get something that's going to give you some real depth and dimension on your cards, and that's okay. They're made to blend together. So once I've gone darkest to lightest, I will come back from there and go lightest to darkest. I'll go back from darkest to lightest, and that's really just going to brighten the whole thing up, and it'll look super round and bright, and that's how I wanted it. For the next one, I'm going to use the same color combination, except for the darkest color is going to be an E09. This is a great reddish brown color. It's still pretty in the bright because it's got that 0 is this front number, 09. And I'm going to do the same exact thing because I do want them to match. I want them to look like they're, all belong on the same card, but that doesn't mean they all have to be the same color. Even though I'm using all of the rest of the same colors, you'll see that the shading is slightly different. So like the tones and the overall look of the pumpkin looks slightly different using that E09. So that's another option. The third option that I'm going to show you when we get there is going to be the pumpkin on the far left-hand side, the large pumpkin. For that one, I changed the colors completely just to show you that there is a more subdued look that you can use that doesn't have to be a big bright orange pumpkin, although that's what I like. So he had his stuff. He's all good. I also had some doctor's appointments that I had to go to, and one of them, as you guys know if you've been with me for a while, I have horrible allergies. I didn't have allergies until I brought Peanut into this world by the grace of God. It's just something that happened to me. I mean, honestly, it's just something that happened to me. So they have gotten, slowly but surely, they have gotten worse. So I had sinus problems the entirety of my pregnancy. I would have sneezing fits. My eyes would water toward the end of my pregnancy. I had to use like a saline nose spray to even be able to sleep for 2 hours because my sinuses were so dry. I just could not breathe. So anywho, here you can see the difference to the right and the left. The one on the right is a little bit more subdued. Here, these are completely new colors minus the E09, which is still my darkest color, but the lightest color and the midtones are a little bit different, which is going to make it more subdued. It'll be more on the brown side of a pumpkin, which is also an option. Now for shading, we've talked about this in the past. If any point two objects meet, there will be shading, or any point where one object lays atop of another. So I've got leaves on top of this pumpkin and I have a flower in front of this pumpkin. So those are going to be areas that will have more shading. So my highlight's not going to be clean across the center. That wouldn't make any sense. There's objects there that would be blocking the light. Anywho, back to this allergies. So in the beginning, my allergies would act up maybe once every, 4 months, 6 months, something like that. And I would have a day where they would be just really, really difficult and my nose would run and I wouldn't be able to stop it unless I napped. So then I would nap for an hour and a half. I would get up from my nap and I would be good to go. And then I would just move on with my day. These progressively got worse. So the frequency was happening more often where my nose would just run and nothing would stop it. Until it got to the point where it is now, which is about every 2 weeks. I have been documenting it on my calendar, and every 12 to 14 days, my nose will run. Nothing will stop it. At this point, not even the nap will stop it. I have tried everything over the counter that I could get my hands on. I have tried Claritin, Allegra, Flonase, Sudafed, Zyrtec. I mean, I have tried them all. If you didn't need a prescription for it and the pharmacist told me it would stop my nose from running, I tried it. The only thing that I did not try was Benadryl because I wanted something that I could still go to work with, which ultimately, and this is not going to surprise you, if you guys know me, I have 3 jobs and I'm a mom. I don't have time for that. I just don't have time for it. So what ended up happening was I was having to leave work because it was just like water pouring out of my face. And so that eventually led to me making an appointment with my regular family physician. Now, I should say in between this, I did go to my family care doctor before, and they wrote me a prescription for Dymista, which is a nose spray. And that did work in the beginning, and then it stopped working. We're going to go back to this. So you can see that that's how the whole pumpkin looks. It's a little bit more brown. I do want it to be matchy, at least a little bit. So I am going to go back over and do some color glazing with that Y38, just so it fits in with the rest of the pumpkins. But I wanted to show you that there is a difference, and there's a different type of look that you can get. Moving on from there. So it got to the point where it was like every 2 weeks, and I was having to leave work, and I just could not do it. It was way too much time for me to be leaving work. And I was miserable. I was just miserable. I would take all of these drugs. I would take Sudafed with 2 Advil every 4 hours. I would take the Zyrtec on top of that. Nothing would stop it. So I went to my family physician again, and I was like, there's got to be something. And she referred me to an allergist. So I knew that they did the scratch test when you go to an allergist. And he was a very nice guy, super down to earth, like 200 stars, would absolutely recommend. Really liked him. So I went in, we talked, told him what was going on, and he said, okay, let's go do this test. And I was like, okay, cool. I have to go back to the card. There's a lot going on in this card, guys. So I'm going from here, I'm going to color the leaves, and I want the leaves to be fall leaves. So I've picked these 4 colors. I'm not really worried about too much shading or depth of dimension. I'm more concerned about the color blending. So when you're blending color families with Copics, you want to look at the last number. So if you're blending a 2, a 3, a 2, a 4, that's pretty much going to work, really well. You don't want to try to blend like a 2 and a 9. Here's the exception to the rule. That is the yellows. The yellows are the exception to the rule. They are by far and away the most difficult to blend, just because of just the way that they are. So for me, I do have a YO2, and the YG03, it's technically orange, but it's a Y, is a 38. So the 8 is the weird one. But it does blend very well with the rest of the colors. So it's not gospel, but it is a good trick to know to look at the end of the colors just as a starting off point. But if you find that that's not working for you, don't be afraid to experiment with other colors. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow underneath these pumpkins with some green colors that I forgot to show you, so I have to go back and do that, as well as the stems for the buttercups. So anyway, he's like, let's go do this allergy test. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I get in there, I meet the very nice nurse, and she was like, okay, take off your bra, take off your top, put on this cape, leave it open in the back. Everybody loves the cape. You know how comfortable the cape is, because it's always freezing cold in doctor's offices, and capes are super warm. They're not. That's sarcasm in case you couldn't tell. So I put my little cape on, I lay down, and she comes in and starts making these little hashtags all over my back, with this pen. Hashtag. And I'm like, okay, scratch test. Here is what I did not realize about the scratch test. Okay, so she makes little hashtags. She puts all these little drops of things all over my back. Then she starts stabbing me. I'm not kidding you, y'all. Okay, they say scratch test. This is very misleading. I think it's because they didn't want to call it a stab test. But what they're doing is stabbing you, people. That's what's happening. They're like, it's just a little pinprick, which is true. A little pinprick 55 times. You're just repeatedly being stabbed. And nobody's calling the police. They like, it's not a crime. You just lay there and voluntarily get stabbed. And I have a fear of needles. So I used to get sick a lot when I was young. They sent me to all kinds of hospitals to figure out what was wrong with me, and everybody wanted to test my blood. Everyone wanted to test my blood. And my poor mother, because it created this anxiety in me. That if I see a needle, I will freak out. I'm fine if I don't see it. So girlfriend at the allergy test was fine because it was on my back. I couldn't see it. But I did ask her why she chose a job where she stabbed people all day. Because I think that the psychology of that would be very interesting. I would like to know. So anywho, so she tells me, I'm going to give you this, wait 15 minutes. And then anything you react negatively to, we will test again with a small series of injections in your upper arm. Say what? What happened? So if I get out of here free of allergies, then you're going to stab me again all them other times? You're just going to keep stabbing me? Why? What isn't that why do the first test then? Just do the second test so I don't get all the stabbings. I don't understand. So anyway, so I do that. It itches. It does itch. So clearly I'm having a reaction. And then she was like, yeah, we have a what did they call it? Science. Science is hard. What did they call it? Hypothesis? No. I mean, that's a science word, but that's not it. A positive? A histamine positive? Anyway, it's the thing that they know is going to react. That's what we're talking about. The control. That's what it is. The control. I've been out of high school for a long time, guys, and I did not go to college for science. But anyway, so she's like, yeah, that one's going to itch. That just shows us that you haven't taken the antihistamine in the last 48 hours, which I had not, and I suffered with snot just running out of my face the night before. Believe you me. So anyway, so I do all that. It's just like crazy. She comes in, she wipes off my back, and then she comes back. And she was like, if you have a short sleeve shirt on, you can get dressed again. Hallelujah, I can be warm. And so I do that. And then she comes in and I tell her, I'm very upfront with people. Listen, I have a fear of needles. I can't see them. If I see them, I will flip my wig. It just can't happen. She was very nice about it. I've had other people who were not. And so then she proceeds to stab me, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, across like 12 or 15 more times in my upper arm. So anyway, what it ends up being, crazy as this is grasses. That's what I'm mad, crazy, allergic to grasses. All kinds of grasses. Bermuda grass, orchard grass, ryegrass, Kentucky bluegrass, all kinds of grasses. Just, I have some weeds I'm allergic to. I have some molds I'm allergic to. And that's what it was. That's what all this time. So, was very interesting, at least. I don't know if it was worth the stabbings. We're going to find out. So I talked to the allergist, the actual doctor, and he was like, you're a candidate for allergy tests, or I'm sorry, allergy shots, which basically is like they give you this series of shots over something like 5 years and builds up an immunity to that allergy so that you do not have it anymore. One of the guys I work with actually did it and worked very well. And he said, but let's see if we can control yours with medication first. And then if we can't, then we'll look at the shots. Because honestly, y'all, I don't want the shots. So he gave me a prescription to take every night before bed. And then he gave me a prescription nose spray to use as needed, but hopefully it will not be needed. So as of right now, I'm very, very hopeful. But all the stabbings, it's very scratch test. It's a stab test. Tell your friends so they're prepared when they go. And then the following day for a different doctor's appointment, I had to have blood drawn, and they took 3 vials of blood, and I think that they're testing me for every disease under the sun, which is probably not true, but it seemed like a lot at the time, and she was very nice as well. So for those of you on Instagram who were concerned about my health, please don't be. I'm fine. Just some things that have come up that need to get taken care of. So that's that. Yeah, grasses got me. So yeah, that's the whole card, all the colorings, and I think it's super cute, and I will going to try to remember to mail it off because I made it with someone in mind. We'll see how that goes. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.